This is the tree line. North of here, trees do not exist. This is the diesel electric plant, heartbeat of the post. This is the airstrip, lifeline to civilization. This is the Arctic, snow-covered ice fields and limitless space. At latitude 58 degrees 47 minutes north on the western shores of Hudson's Bay, the Canadian government maintains the military post of Fort Churchill. Although the post was primarily intended for use as an Arctic military testing and training station by the joint services of the Canadian and the United States Armies, the airstrip of the RCAF's Air Rescue Service is now serving as a dispatch point for equipment and supplies being ferried north for radar defense installations. With the constantly increasing activity in the north, the fort has become the supplying and jumping off point into the central Arctic. Here in the heart of nowhere, hundreds of miles from the nearest civilization, has been constructed a small city, a veritable oasis in the Arctic. Here are comforts and services that are comparable to those to be found in the most modern communities, and some facilities not available in many rural centers. Although precipitation is light, blowing snow forms huge drifts, and the prevailing northwestern winds combined with low temperatures result in a wind chill which is more truly Arctic than inland points further north. Periods of extreme cold exist when exposed flesh may be frozen in a matter of seconds, and to lack an essential piece of equipment or to become lost when your absence is unknown can be fatal. Winds of over 110 miles per hour have been recorded, at which point the anemometer disintegrated. The establishment of the distant early warning radar net is proceeding, and supplies for the construction of the various sites are being ferried northward by Canadian and United States civilian aircraft together with globemasters of the U.S. Air Force. The date, 22 May, 1955. Headed for a destination west of Baffin Island, the 2095 with Major Milton Boehner in command takes off past the trees that line the runways to define them from the air in the winter. Airborne. With the course set for the northern terminal, Major Boehner trimmed ship and the crew settled down for the long hop. The altitude, 5300 feet. The airspeed, 310 knots. The ground speed, 280 miles per hour. The outside temperature, 10 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. The wind speed, 20 miles per hour, north-northeast. The heading, north-northwest, 356 degrees. The time, 1630 hours. The latitude, 67 degrees, crossing the Arctic Circle. Approaching site number 28, the runway built on the frozen waters appears. With a sharp left bank, the landing approach has begun. The red light signals that the aircraft's ramp has been lowered and the cargo is quickly discharged. Ice fog floats in the background created by the exhaust of the aircraft's engines. The unloading completed, engines are started for an uneventful return journey. The date, 1 June 55. A DC-4 has made a forced landing 15 miles north on the rapidly thawing ice of the bay, and the owners are making desperate efforts to salvage the aircraft. From 500 feet, the principal hazard the salvage crew is encountering appears in the opening waters of the bay. Looking for a clearance signal, the captain makes a dry run over the drop area. Wood shavings are being airdropped to the stricken aircraft, where they are spread over the ice floe as an insulation against the sun. If the ice floe can be prevented from melting, it will serve as a raft to float the aircraft to shore through the fast-opening waters. Stacks of wood shavings are stacked for the next drop. A helicopter is also engaged in the rescue work as reconnaissance and transport to the scene. Flight Sergeant Clark, on loan from the RCAF as drop master, signals for the kickout and then checks the accuracy of the fall. After the final drop, the aircraft returns to base. The salvage operation was a pioneering effort and was completed successfully in July when the plane was floated into the Churchill harbor. It is 0230 hours, 2:30 in the morning, and the sun rises over the ice cakes that are still floating in the bay on a summer day in July. The Arctic is not all freezing temperatures, ice and snow. In the summer, mild weather is prevalent. Trees with one side eroded show the intensity of the northwestern winds. And even those partially protected do not escape the effects. Communication lines are constructed in a tripod formation to prevent blowing over in the winter and sinking into the muskeg in the summer. The grave of a trapper lies in the lonely tundra. The Arctic can be beautiful. Flowers of many varieties are to be found in all directions. The summer carnival opens with a parade. Games of chance and concessions raise money to cover the summer camp expenses for the Girl Guides and the Boy Scouts. day draws to a close, a concert by the Royal Canadian Horse Artillery Band is followed by a U.S. Special Services show. Major Miggins announces the winning carnival queen, and Colonel Houghton, the post commander, congratulates her. And so at 2200 hours, 10 o'clock in the evening, the busy summer day ends. 12 October, and the sullen skies ride outpost on the approaching winter. The angry seas leap and surge, freezing as they dash themselves against the rugged rocks. The spray forms a foam similar to a fire extinguisher mixture. The first snowfall as the wind offers its obligato. And as the sun returns, beautiful frost patterns are formed south in the tree line. With ignited oil is the site of the Arctic testing by the United States Engineer Test Team of a new firefighting chemical. The results were highly satisfactory. February 1956 inaugurates the Arctic bomb penetration test of the snow, ice, and permafrost establishment of the Corps of Engineers, U.S. Army. A helicopter of the Transportation Corps takes off to survey the prospective drop site. Bomb dropping was conducted with the cooperation of the Royal Canadian Air Force, who contributed a B-25 bomber and crew from the 406 Squadron. With flying officers Al Arnold and Jim Gallagher piloting, the 264 takes off with a loading of 250-pound inert bombs with a target area located 11 miles east of the main camp. Arriving over the target, a dry run is made to familiarize the crew with the site. Meanwhile, the ground forces are converging on the area in oversnow vehicles of the M29 and M76 types. The red flags are up, and Flight Lieutenant Robert Coulter and Major George Ray, who is acting as safety officer, check the target area. Communications are established with the observation towers where the impact points will be plotted with transits. And RCAF Flight Lieutenant Coulter, who is the ground-to-air communications officer, contacts the Mitchell bomber through the code call of Bob Mitchell from Brass Knob and advises that the area is cleared for the drop. While the aircraft circles onto the baseline, an Arctic Raven comes in on a bomb run of his own. At 2,500 feet, the bomb dropper flying officer Jerry Carter gives the final corrections. Bomber to pilot, right. Bomber to pilot, left, left. Bomber to pilot, steady, steady. Bomber to pilot and ground, bomb gone. The target is marked so that the bomb may be excavated and the drop evaluated at a later date. The aircraft makes a low pass over the area to observe the results from the air. Aircraft to ground, Brass Knob, Bob Mitchell. Bob Mitchell returning to base and closing down on his frequency. With activities similar to these, the lost frontiers in the far north are gradually disappearing. But the struggle of man against the elements continues, for this is still the Arctic. Cold, windswept, bleak, lonely. The narrator was Ronald Schulman.